You're gonna have to bear with me reading off a script for a lot of this because I don't make videos and I haven't rehearsed this so much because I've been busy. So, just bear with. Do you know what I mean? Okay. What's up, gamers? This isn't the first YouTube video I've ever made, but it is certainly going to be the only one that's public. Because today I wanted to talk about Dancing with the Stars, USA. For my British friends, it's the same program as Strictly Come Dancing, just in the States. One's BBC, the other's BBC America. It's the same company. There's been a ton of these programs all around the world, like way more than I thought there had been. Because I knew about the Irish one because Curtis from Love Island is a professional dancer on it, and I was like, that's weird. But no, there's been a show in a whole bunch of countries, a list of which I will try and have a scrolling effect for here, and I'll cut this if it doesn't work. You probably all know what the structure is. A bunch of celebrities pair up with a bunch of professional dancers doing a new dance every week, and they eliminate a couple every week. They score them, public votes. I love it. I love the concept of the show. I like dancing. It's the kind of dance I used to do, so I enjoy it from a purely critical standpoint. There are a few reasons I want to talk about Dancing with the Stars specifically, which is already kind of off-brand for me because I'm not American, I'm British, and trying to find places to even watch the show in the UK is really difficult. You can't access old seasons. I've been looking. I mean, maybe you can buy DVDs, but like one of the main questions in all the Dancing with the Stars Reddit threads is like, hey, I want to watch the old season 18 or whatever, and you just can't find it, so that's great. The biggest one is that I sort of used to be on the Dancing with the Stars fandom community on Tumblr, which was small. That was a small community because the kind of people who are into that show don't really use Tumblr for the most part. There are a few big blogs. There aren't huge online communities for either the UK or the US show, which is a shame because I do want to talk about it, which is why I'm doing this today, because literally nobody understands what I mean when I say anything about Dancing with the Stars, because it's not like a cult TV show. People don't like get into it. It's a reality show. The thing about having any kind of small online fan base, I guess any online fan base, is that weird stuff usually happens. Unfortunately, it's super hard to navigate Tumblr at the best of times. But if you're looking for posts from, say, 2017 on a small-time Dancing with the Stars blog that since may or may not have been deactivated, you're going to have a really hard time, which is what I've been experiencing because I've been trying to find receipts and they don't exist, so that's very annoying. I have confirmed with other people, though. I have second-hand corroboration. The second reason I want to talk about this is that while the show has like a bunch of scandals and controversies that I find very interesting, I don't just mean the like, this person was eliminated too soon, this person's already a professional dancer, why are they competing on the show as a contestant? Like, I'm talking about like Scientology, I'm talking about protesters rushing the stage, I'm talking about the rampant Mormonism on the show, I'm talking about like how fundamentally Republican it is. That's kind of what I want to talk about because it's interesting to see when somebody gets eliminated too early and you think someone who didn't deserve it didn't win, but that's not juicy. That's not as juicy as Scientology, is it? Be honest. Okay, so I'm going to split this video into two parts. Two parts. Firstly, the Tumblr fandom stuff, and then like the actual real life show nonsense. That's not because they're in any particular order, but I think the show stuff ramps up pretty high after what I started researching. So I'll get into that now. To do this, however, I'm going to introduce you guys to a list of main characters who feature in a bunch of these stories. And I need to explain who they are, or I'm going to keep tossing their names out and you're not going to know what they look like, who they are. And I'm going to be trying to use video clips throughout this whole thing. Again, I'm not a video editor. Like, this is probably going to suck. So, without further ado, here are your main characters. Number 1, Maxim and Valentin Shmekovsky. Max joined the show in season 2 and was joined by his younger brother Val in season 12. Since the start of their appearances on the show, they've had a bad boy reputation. I was looking at the Miss Mojo video for this, and like the Miss Mojo video for like top 10 Dancing with the Stars scandals, and there's a whole one dedicated to Maxim's many alleged affairs. And I do have to say alleged, you know, parody redacted, I don't know. Please don't come for me. They aren't the reason I got into dancing shows originally. That honest is still reserved for Russian heartthrob Gleb Savchenko, but they are certainly part of it. You can ignore Gleb for this video. He's had a largely unproblematic run on the show. 2. Jenna Johnson-Schmakovsky. Originally a troupe member on the show from season 18, Jenna finally got a celebrity partner in season 23. She has one of the largest online fan group followings on Tumblr, and after many years of rumoured breakups and makeups, is now married to Val. She is, and always has been, flexibility goals. Mormon status. Confusing. She still follows all of the Mormon pages and leaders on Instagram, but didn't get married at a temple as far as I'm aware, so it's a little ambiguous. We're going to get into the Mormon stuff later, I promise. This matters. Okay, number 3. Derek and Julianne Hough. The Jaime and Cersei Lannister of Dancing with the Stars. Am I going to get sued for this? Probably the most famous Dancing with the Stars professionals, at least in the US mainstream media, is like both of them are hugely popular on the show and in the fan communities, and also have a couple acting chops. Julianne's career has had a few ups and downs because while she's done some great work for endometriosis charities, she also did do blackface whilst dressing up as Suzanne from Orange is the New Black. Yeah, we're also going to talk about the show's racism later, so just bear that one in mind. For a brief period of time, she was also a judge on the show. Derek Hough, her older brother, holds the record for winning the Mirrorball Trophy the most times. I think it's 6. He's enormously popular with fans, which for me is interesting because I find him personally as interesting as bioactive yogurt. Whilst researching for this video, I also discovered that both siblings have been extras in the first Harry Potter movie. So, just thought that was interesting. Mormon status, they are no longer Mormons, although they were, and they still have contact with a lot of the others. Number 4. Whitney Carson and Lindsay Arnold. When I first started watching Dancing with the Stars, I didn't realize that these were 2 separate women. And after watching the shows for years now, I know that essentially they aren't. Both Whitney and Lindsay grew up in Utah. Both were contestants on So You Think That You Can Dance. They joined the show's troupe members around the same time. They were made actual cast members around the same time. They're the same age. They both married young and were maids of honor at one another's weddings. And both of them have recently announced they were pregnant. They frequently dance together in trios and wear the same outfits. They have the same hair. All of their like stan accounts on Twitter and Tumblr are usually joint stan accounts for the 2 of them because they come as a team, I guess. Mormon status, currently still very much Mormons, very much confirmed still are Mormon. And number 5, who's the last one I'm going to mention as a character in this and like gonna talk about, is Peter Murgatroyd Schmakovsky. She's now married to Max, that's why she's also got the Schmakovsky surname. Peter wasn't going to be a main player in this until I started doing some research into everything and found out some interesting bits and bobs. So, she's not Mormon, she's Australian and therefore off the hook, but, you know, not for everything. We'll find out about that later. A little addendum here is that I do sincerely hope that none of them ever see this. Like, I don't want to get tagged in anything. I'm not looking for public fight because they're not going to change their minds. They're not going to change what they do. And I certainly don't want to be making enemies with professional dancers. I just think that sounds like a bad time. I'm also going to try and make this not too long because I know no one but me wants to watch an hour-long video about drama in Dancing with the Stars. That's not a normal thing to be interested in. Okay, so I'm going to do the Tumblr stuff first. And again, really do excuse me reading off a script. I can't just blag this. The Tumblr stuff. This one is interesting because the biggest thing I can tell about the Dancing with the Stars fandom on Tumblr is that no one seems to like the show. Not to mention it kind of died down last year after one of the contestants they brought on, and we're going to get into that later. Yeah, most fans on Tumblr kind of understand how Republican the show is and are pretty critical of it. Tumblr's not exactly like a very right-wing space generally. And there's a few specific bits of the drama that I want to get into now. So, first of all, there's a lot of... Because of the nature of Dancing with the Stars and that it is couples, there is a lot of RPF which is real person fan fiction. And there's a lot of people who do ship the different dancers together. Mostly it's between different dancers. Sometimes it's between the dancers and their contestants. Like, and you have some main players in this. And most of this happened like 3-4 years ago, before the dancers started like getting married. So you have like Val and Jenna. That was the biggest one. But also Val and Shauna. Val and Haley was another one. And Val and almost every single one of his partners on the show, including Zendaya, who was 16 at the time. People wrote RPF about that and I did not care for it. Also, she was robbed. She should have won. Then you had like Max and Peter versus Max and Meryl, his partner in season 18? Yeah. And he briefly dated Amber Rose, who was one of his partners. That didn't last very long. Max and Peter are now together and have a son. So that kind of stopped. Like the Val stuff also kind of stopped when he did marry Jenna. So people got it. There's a whole bunch of others. I mean, there's Sasha and Emma, who are actually together. Haley and Derek, who are also together. Haley and Alan, which, I don't know, it's cute. Shauna and every single one of her partners. Shauna and Artem. Everybody had an opinion. This obviously led to like its own internet corner of RPF discourse, which I know is potentially still going on to this day. I don't engage. So there was discourse between the Huffs and the Schmakovsky extended circle, which was largely branded the fam. The fam includes Jenna and Peter, like the wives, obviously, as well as Shauna, who's Peter's friend, and the Mormons, because Jenna was a Mormon, and also probably Sasha and Emma, because they seem to get on. Side note here, I really like Sasha and Emma. They came up pretty good after this whole investigation. Apart from, they do keep driving while doing Instagram lives like every single other celebrity who lives in LA, and I wish they would stop. But you know, they're not in a cult, so... Basically, there was this whole drama between Huff-aligned dancers and the fam-aligned dancers, which I still think is entirely speculation. There's some flimsy evidence that they don't like each other. Derek can come off as kind of a jealous boyfriend, but mostly this seems like complete speculation. Anyway, on Tumblr you had to pick a side. Obviously I picked Schmakovsky because it's not a competition. When I first started getting into Dancing with the Stars through YouTube as well, I thought that Derek and Julianne were married, not siblings, and this view was not just me. A lot of people also thought that until they clarified. The rumors flew, and I'm not accusing them of incest, not really, I am just joking. At the same time, I would not dance with my brother like this. Am I coming off as too judgmental? He used to say. Also, Julianne was judged, as I said, on the show, and she would judge her brother's dancing, which people thought was unfair, which it probably is, but they've all had guest judge spots, so I don't care about that. It's not juicy. It's not incest, you know what I mean? And then the biggest, this is the one that sparked this whole video for me, because I was sat in a bed one morning and I just remembered that all of this happened. So there was the biggest Tumblr drama I can remember happening was when a Jenna Stan account, whose blog has since been deactivated and I can't remember the username, was run by a girl who I think went by the name of Courtney, started being more vocal about her life. She had this, like, I don't want to say parasocial because she's not famous. She did not have any power. She just had slightly more followers than most people, and she'd post, like, really good critiques of the dancers sometimes, which was enjoyable. I followed her. I was there like, wow, this is cool. Yeah, she had a ton of followers, quite a lot with, like, the fam supporters, and she would post bits about her own life. Like, she was really good at critiquing dancers. She came off like she had a ton of experience. People liked her. I know I liked her. And I'm pretty sure she interacted with Jenna herself as well. So she'd had, like, they talked, like, at least online. Anyway, she started posting YouTube videos of herself dancing. And they were really good. I was like, whoa, holy shit, you can get your leg like that? That's amazing. Next thing you know, the girl who's actually in those videos calls the account out. It turns out it's being run by some guy named Grish, who then posted an apology and dipped after lying to everyone about his identity for about 2 years. Unfortunately, because of how impossible Tumblr is to navigate, I haven't been able to find any of the posts on the account or the apology, which is really annoying because it's upsetting and I want people to believe me. I did recently message a popular Dancing with the Stars blog, like, hey, do you remember this happening? And he didn't. But then another person messaged his Tumblr like, hey, to that person who asked, yeah, I remember. We remember. So it did happen. I'm not crazy. I love Tumblr stuff. It's ridiculous. Okay. Tumblr drama notwithstanding, I'm going to go over some stuff I just want to talk about regarding the actual show drama. Some of these will be quicker, some of these will be more serious things. Some of these things are things I just think are funny. And I'm going to do the funny bits first because the bad stuff kind of escalates. To begin, there was the season where the whole cast got swine flu. There was the season where Paula Deen came on and danced to Respect by Aretha Franklin after she got caught using racial slurs. No one liked that. There was the season where they had Bristol Palin on, and because of the Republican supporters of the show, that's like the fan base, they kept keeping her on by voting for her every single week, even though she could not fucking dance. It was very stupid. There was the time Ryan Lochte was on the show to like clear his name after he lied about trashing that gas station at the Olympics.
My name is Ryan Lochte, and I'm a 6-time Olympic gold medalist swimmer. But recently, I've been in the media for the wrong reasons.
And protesters then, like, after his first dance, rushed the stage before getting absolutely bodied by security. Which, like, I don't know. Dancing with the Stars, I don't know if the guy needed redeeming that much. It's not your job to redeem people. Although, make no mistake, he is not the most controversial guest that they have ever had on the show. Then there was the thing where one of Max's previous partners, who he'd, like, previously had a good relationship with, started saying she could no longer associate with him because she was a Scientologist, and he started dancing with a woman on season 17 who had left Scientology like a couple years before. I'm gonna say some things about Mormonism in a bit, but that does not mean Scientology gets a free pass. It's a cult. It is a literal cult. Sorry, Tom Cruise. Blink twice if you need help. Speaking of cults, recently we saw Whitney and Lindsay both attending an Operation Underground Railroad march without masks. I mean, fans have since called the two of them out on Twitter for not wearing masks, and Whitney was very rude and said, actually we were, even though they've taken them off for the photo where they are stood inches apart. So, I don't know if she can be that rude about it. Unfortunately as well, we now live in a world where if I hear about an organisation that's anti-child trafficking, that's either like, fine, that's good, that's a great cause to stand for, or it's like super associated with QAnon, and usually it's the latter. So I did some digging on this charity. And it's Mormon-led, run by a gay in Mormonism? I don't think so. Run by a guy called Tim Ballard, who's an ex-cop and extremely vocal in his support for Trump, a man who was keeping cages full of children at the US border. So that's rich. I don't understand how you can run an anti-child trafficking organization and support Trump. Like, what's... While I was researching, I discovered that this charity has a documentary called Operation Toussaint, which is maybe the larpiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I never dreamed that I would work in Haiti. I didn't know anything really about Haiti until I learned about a little boy who was born in Utah, U.S. citizen, and was kidnapped in Haiti from his church.
And they are almost exclusively Mormon. Like, they say anyone can join, but we help children with prayer, so if you don't feel comfortable praying with us, you shouldn't join. It's basically just Mormons. Like, I don't want to say... I really don't want to say that this right-wing, hyper-religious, ex-CIA, ex-cop affiliated group is associated with QAnon. I don't want to say that. I do know that some of its supporters are, though, because I checked. Ding, ding, ding. Dog whistles going off. The operation itself, I don't know. Apparently they've had some success, but then my concern is for the aftercare of the rescued children because the website does not go into detail, and I do not trust Christian missionary efforts to help people because more often than not it comes with religious conversion, which is literally colonialism. That's a colonialist thing to do. I'm not exaggerating, that's what it is. Yeah, it's impossible to say for sure one way or another, but I definitely have my suspicions, which is grim. I hate, stop the planet, I want to get off. So yeah, I was gonna say that this doesn't mean that the two of them are like pilled or whatever. But then I started looking at who Whitney follows on Instagram, and it's not only every single leader of the Mormon church, but fucking PragerU. More like Prager-ew. Speaking of being pilled, let's talk about the anti-vaxxers. This is mostly Peter, and probably also Whitney, but I am curious to see what Pat Lindsay takes, and how much she'll put on social media, because I haven't seen anything yet, but I don't go on Instagram very often. I'm not watching their stories daily. I'm not, like, at that point of sickness yet. I do just want to point out on the child trafficking note, just as like a PSA, Peter follows a similar anti-child trafficking organization which advocates for tracking your child's phone to like make sure they're safe. I just want to put it out there that if you use any of those like child's phone monitoring apps, you're creating an enormous security risk on the phone. The data isn't being stored securely. Those apps aren't regulated. And if you're tracking your child's location, it makes it super easy for anybody else to do that using that same app. Not to mention a lot of like CSA happens within the home from parents. So like it's then those apps shouldn't exist. There's a lot of good research being done on this by my partner. So anyway, they're a breach of privacy. Just keep a good relationship and trust with your kid. Teach them good internet literacy and like, I don't know, tell them not to talk to strangers. Anyway. Tangent over. After doing a little digging on Dancing with the Stars Reddit, and boy what an interesting situation that was, I discovered that Peter was an anti-vaxxer. To confirm, I went through who she follows on Instagram, and yep, lo and behold, there we go. Unfortunately, the current anti-vaxxer movement is full of weird COVID stuff as well, like how masks are muzzles and they're going to stop you breathing, and like how Bill Gates engineered the virus to control the world for fun and profit. And like, I'm not a big Bill Gates fan either, to be honest, but not because I think he created the coronavirus and is part of the deep state. Like, yeah, the sites Peter follows also promote the use of hydroxychloroquine. I didn't say that right, but you know the one I mean, the one that Trump was endorsing. Anyway, you truly hate to see it. I know Whitney's at least a little interested in the anti-vax stuff because she put on her Instagram story that she was reading this book, which is a sort of subtle anti-vax book that is like a softer euphemism for parents opting out of vaccinating their children. I thought Lindsay would be on it too, but I've got no evidence other than that they're friends and fundamentally the same person. Lindsay does seem to be into CBD vitamins though, so you know, maybe that's her approach. Anyway, all of these women are pregnant or already have children, which frightens me a little. Vaccinate your fucking children. I want to put this out here now. I do believe in religious freedom, obviously. That being said, Mormons can catch these fucking hands. It's not the polygamy I have a problem with. I could not care less. It's literally everything else under the criticism section of the Wikipedia article on Mormonism. Racism, sexism, rampant homophobia, probably transphobia, which I don't know for sure, but it's a very educated guess. Everything on that list except like the authenticity of the Book of Mormon. Literally, who cares? Authenticity doesn't exist. My issue with it is sort of that the number of Mormon dancers on this show is not with them individually as such, although I do have problems with them individually, as we've covered. It's sort of that they're a bit emblematic of the show as a whole. And by this I mean that the show is aesthetically liberal, but fundamentally right-wing. And there's so much more to it than this. Like, even if you look at the costumes the women will wear and the incredibly sexual dances the show will do, which, here I'm going to clarify, I like this. I think dance and sexuality are often linked, and I'm not judging the skimpiness of the outfits, only usually their originality and, like, reusing them, whilst the Strictly costume department is a lot more interesting stuff. Like, I like the sexual dances on the show. They are famous within the fandom. People will refer to the shower dance or the pony stripping routine, but blatantly these dances are sexual, right? But then you have that paired with the band doing covers of songs and censoring the word ass. when I can see about 50 on my screen, you know? The band will censor the word marijuana from songs.
Somewhere in the corner under counter, with this boy who's howling, I can hardly hear.
As if I'm gonna watch this and then go smoke a joint. I'm gonna smoke a joint anyway, the show has nothing to do with it. The family values thing that BBC America wants to push is just so frequently undercut by everything else they do, but it's still there. Like, it's so baffling to me. Not to mention the gender role stuff in the show is insane. Like, the Disney night performances, it would be really good as a parody of heterosexuality and gender as a binary if it wasn't taking itself 100% seriously. This show has had contestants like Adam Rippon, who, yeah, he's a bit of a lib, but like, he's also a high-profile gay celebrity and pretty vocal on Twitter about hating Trump. Dancing with the Stars will have him on the show. Dancing with Jenna, they danced a Sissy That Walk. And he won, like, good for him. He won his season. And then the next season they'll have Karamo on, who's on Five Guys? Queer Eye. I don't watch the show very often. But again, he's a high-profile gay celebrity, and Dancing with the Stars thinks it's appropriate to have him on the same show as, drumroll, Sean fucking Spicer. A guy who literally worked for Donald Trump and has done real material harm to millions of people. Like, this show would have George Bush on it if they could get him, I promise you. Do a Dancing Criminal by Fiona Apple, except it's a war criminal. Strictly Come Dancing is guilty of this too. The UK does not get a pass on racism, unsurprisingly. Like, you can have as many gay dancers and judges as you want. You can have as many fans with Queen on as you like. But you still invited Anne Widdecombe on as a contestant, even though she literally passed homophobic legislation in the UK. And she believes it to this day. You can say, oh, she passed that legislation back in the 60s. She stands by it. To this day, she's gone full fash. Like, they did not apologize for this. It is not a neutral political statement to have politicians on your reality show who have contributed to killing people. Like, having someone on your show who thinks all gay people are pedophiles is not a neutral statement. And the BBC does this all the time. BBC America does this all the time. It's this pretense of having a nice apolitical environment where everyone can dance and have a good time, but it's not. You can't have an apolitical environment. They don't exist. And you especially cannot have one when you invite actual politicians on the show. Like, this keeps going as well because Dancing with the Stars, Strictly 2, but specifically Dancing with the Stars, is really racist. They are replacing much-loved hosts Tom and Erin with Tyra Banks soon, which is kind of a shame because everybody loves the old host, including me, and she's going to get a lot of abuse because of this. But also, having a black woman present your show doesn't do much when you're pretending to be apolitical in the current political climate, which is as dire as it has ever been. Like, it's so polarized, and to take a neutral stance just doesn't, there isn't one. You can't have one. Centrism is cowardice, anyway. Like, I don't know what to tell you. They're also promoting one of the dancers, Keo, back into the cast. So you have the troupe and the cast. So you don't really have the troupe so much in Strictly until, like, recent years, but it's, like, a group of usually younger dancers who've just started on the show, and it's kind of, like, training them up to be professionals on the show. Yeah, anyway, they're bringing Keo back to being a cast member, which is nice, but it does not make up for his previous treatment on the show, especially since they haven't acknowledged any of it. Like, the Tumblr blog DWTS Fund has made many posts about the treatment of black professionals and contestants on the show, notably professionals Keo Motsepe and guest Simone Biles. So you have Keo on the show. He's a wonderful dancer. He's also the first black professional dancer they had to come on after 19 separate seasons, which is 9 years. They do like 2 a year. He was immediately out in his first season, after 1 week, which was partly due to his partner at the time. She wasn't good. However, he did that season get called in to help with a trio dance between Janelle from Pretty Little Liars and Val. Dancing with the Stars, this trio dances, it's one of the weeks. They do a dance with 3 people. It's 2 professionals and the celebrity. The dance had a pretty tribal theme. And afterwards, one of the judges, Bruno Tonioli, said that the dance had given him jungle fever. So grim. Haven't actually been able to find video footage of this, which is weird because I've seen this clip before. I remember watching that for the first time a couple of years back and thinking, that's kind of fucked up that you said that. But it doesn't exist anymore. You can still find the dance, but not the comments afterwards, which is either due to copyright, or it's because the show scrubbed YouTube of it. And again, like I said earlier, I can't find any of the full episodes, so I can't give you evidence, but it is there. Anyway, the next season, Kyo was back as a professional. He did a pretty good job with his partner, but he didn't win. And then the next year, he got moved down into the troupe, being replaced by Gleb, who I do love, but he hasn't won before, and he probably won't. I love him, but his choreography hasn't been good or interesting since he was on Strictly for one season, except maybe the shower dancer. Point is, Kyo's a wonderful dancer, and he's a great choreographer, but he's having to try twice as hard to get half as far. You know, they'll bring Gleb on, they'll bring Max on. Max hasn't been good since he won with Meryl, and like everybody knows it. And then with Simone Biles, when she was on the show, she came in the season after fellow US gymnast Laurie Hernandez won. They're both gymnasts, they're both young, both excellent dancers, because gymnastics is kind of, you know, it's in that realm anyway. But where the judges praised Laurie for being really smiley, they kept telling Simone that she smiled too much, marked her down for it, as well as things like being too on beat, which, okay, the one dance where Simone didn't smile as well, they criticised that too. So, you know, can you win? Can you win as a black person on Dancing with the Stars? I don't know. Yeah, there's a long tradition of black contestants on the show not getting as far as they deserve, or not being well liked as they should be by fans, because judges call them overconfident or intimidating. Zendaya and Normani were both snubbed, genuinely, and fans are still very mad about this, at least on Tumblr. I don't think the show even recognizes this, which makes me feel like bringing Tyra in to host isn't going to change anything. I didn't watch the last season because of Sean, but I'm probably going to be keeping an eye out this year to see what's going on, how that unfolds. Dancing with the Stars is, more than anything else, a really good representation of American liberal politics, where the aesthetics are theoretically all there, but they can't help trying to even out the debate and like create an apolitical environment whilst inviting actual Republicans on the show. And before anybody says that this is good, because it makes these people, it makes people laugh at these guys, that's not what it's doing. It's not turning them into a laughingstock. Even if you think it's funny to watch Sean Spicer come out with like big green sleeves, it's making them look harmless, and they're not. This is how the BBC is a wider company. This is how Boris Johnson became Prime Minister. You can get on as many BBC shows as you like and pretend you're not a threat and a bigot when you absolutely are, and we all know it. Trump playing stupid might be because he is stupid, but it also makes people think he's harmless, and he isn't. Am I saying Dancing with the Stars is an evil show? No, I enjoy it. I still really like it. I like to watch the videos. I love dance. And I'll probably continue enjoying it. It's fun to watch. It's fun to do sweepstakes and bet on who's going to win and bitch online about the judges or the contestant. But I think some of the stuff is really worth bearing in mind, because I really, really do not want to see another series of a show that pretends it has family values and then invites Sean Spicer on. And I also need people to care about the spiral that I went down after researching all of this, because it was just like one thing after another. Like I would think, I think it's Republican, and then I'd look into it slightly and be like, oh, it's also like QAnon and anti-vaxxer and weirdly religious in some ways. Yeah, so thank you for bearing with me for this. I hope it was coherent. I'm not sure it was, and I've missed out quite a lot of stuff, but I'm going to leave it there, because again, no one wants to watch a video that is this long. Lastly, I want to leave you with this question that I saw on the Dancing with the Stars Reddit. Is this Artem Chimbinstev, professional dancer who appeared on both Dancing with the Stars and Strictly Come Dancing, or is it Nicholas II?